Okay, you guys, it is time. We're going to get into the main event this evening. The main event, which is our Rusty Lake presentation. So before we really get into this, I do, of course, just want to be completely upfront with you guys. This was not all completely, like, my brain entirely. I did end up looking up some things, and so that way I could, like, put the pieces together for you and, you know, make sure that I have the right dots connected. And a lot of that research, I will be so completely honest, came from videos from Zefiewings over on YouTube. I'm gonna go ahead and link her channel in the chat because I just think she has some really good research videos, not just on Rusty Lake, but it looks like on some other, like, horror adjacent video essays as well. Looks like also some FNAF, if that's the sort of thing you're into. But her video essays about Rusty Lake were some of the biggest sources of information that I had for all of this. You guys should go follow her because she's really cool. And I kind of hope that she puts out even more stuff in the future because, like, genuinely, yeah, I love it. All of this would not be possible without her research, without all the people who contribute to the wiki, and all of that good stuff. And also, another channel who I checked out, The Rusty Truth, as well. They're also pretty darn great. So if you guys want to learn more, and Rusty Truth has more of like a breakdown game by game of like what's happening, of the like underlying story beyond things, like as well as like a more detailed walkthrough game by game of what's going on. So that is also something that is extremely interesting, and you guys should definitely go check them out as well. And someday when this gets edited down into a VOD, I will be linking both of you guys. So that way I can hopefully, like, you know, make sure that all the cool people get credit where credit is due. So, yeah, on that high note, it's time! It's conspiracy board time.
Hey, editing scribe here really quick. I just wanted to mention that while I heavily referenced the two channels that I mentioned, that I didn't include any information that I wouldn't have theoretically been able to get on my own. And that includes anything from the game The Past Within, because I didn't end up getting to play that one on my channel. Anyways, back to the show.
It's conspiracy board time, by which I do mean, I probably have the worst conspiracy board that anybody's ever seen. By which I do mean, it's a picture. It's a picture that we're gonna hopefully put together. Okay. So this is something kind of new for me. This is, originally, I will be straight up with you guys. This was originally meant to be, like, a PowerPoint presentation, and I was, like, talking with some people, and they were like, okay, but you know what would be really interesting if you pulled out, like, a whiteboard, basically, and started going all conspiracy board with that. And, I was like, you might be onto something here. You might be onto something. I do enjoy being a little bit crazy. So here we are, and I hope that I can hopefully make some coherent ramblings from it all, and if it doesn't make sense by the end of this, I, once again, will highly recommend that if you guys want to actually make this make sense in your brains, to go watch Zefiewings or the Rusty Truths videos about the series, because they did a whole lot better of a job than I know I'm about to. So, let's fucking go. Let's fucking go. Alright. So now it's time to unveil my masterpiece. Don't be too mean to me, okay? Alright, so Is this just a bunch of PNGs that you threw onto a canvas in Krita? I can neither confirm nor deny that. But here's where we are at. This sure is one of the things of all time that I've done. I've tried to frame this as best as I can so that you guys can see things. So I'm gonna zoom out real quick so you guys can hopefully see all the things. Yeah. So here's where we're at. And you're like, Scribe, that's just a bunch of like character VOGs. And didn't you say earlier that you didn't even get all of them because you're a professional? Yes. Yes. Don't worry about it. We're gonna figure it out as we go along. So, the way that I'm gonna do this is kind of trying to make sense of it, of the overarching story. My conspiracy ramblings are going to kind of lean towards the chronological order of events between all of the games. I didn't write down years because that would have made too much sense, okay? So here we are. Here we are, doing our conspiracy board ramblings. So, though I will be, like, mentioning, like, chronologically where in the story things happen, I, again, did not write down the years. Because I'm very, very smart, okay? But it does span several hundred years of storyline. That's the big thing. It takes place over a very long period of time. And yeah, again, we're going to figure this out. So, yeah. Man, I'm good at this. I'm already doing so good. I'm a professional. You guys can tell. So, there's two main things that kind of, like, go at the base of the series. And that is the cubes, which are made up of memories, and depending on, like, the color of the cube is, like, what kind of memories they might be associated with. So, like, you have, like, your white cubes, which are associated with good memories. You've got... Blah, blah, blah. I'm coloring with my mouse because it would make too much sense for me to try and plug in my tablet. Anyways, then we have our black cubes, which, as you can probably imagine, are our bad memories. But then we also have seen a couple of other colors of cubes. Notably, the blue cubes. I'm just gonna draw squares, because I don't feel like drawing more cubes and picking more colors. So yeah, we also have the blue cubes, which are kind of more associated with memories that get changed throughout the series. And then we also have gold cubes, which are special. And we only see those a couple of different times in the series, and we'll kind of mention that later. So yeah, so we have that. We have that going on. But then we also, the other thing that we have to like worry about, I guess, is the elixirs of life and death. I'm gonna move these over just a little bit so that way I got space to color. Okay. So the elixir, I'm gonna make a little, that's the worst anybody's ever done it. I'm doing so good, you guys. Yummy, appetizing beverage, super secret beverage. Anyways, okay, so we have the elixir of life and death. We're gonna pretend that that makes sense, that this looks like a little potion. Okay? Cool. And the way that the elixir works is that for every batch, it's used in pairs. And, like, from the batch, one person in that pair will die. Like, they just straight up fucking die. Wow, that's the worst anybody's ever done it. Let's at least move that over. We'll pretend that's a skull. Cool. And then the other person who does it gets to ascend to enlightenment. by which it means that they become functionally immortal, and they also get to have their funny little animal form. Such as in the case of Mr. Owl and Mr. Crow, who are recurring characters and will come up quite a lot in this discussion. So yeah, that's a thing. Yeah. And the other thing that I forgot to mention with the cubes. So the white ones are good memories, the black ones are bad memories. The blue ones are changed memories, like in the case of like somebody having their memories altered. That would be a blue cube. But if you can combine all of the 3 cubes, if you can combine cubes, then you get the fancy gold cube, which may have like extra superpowers, including possibly being able to change the future, which is important. So yeah, that's a thing. Then we have the elixir that you either die or you ascend to become a furry and get your assigned persona from that. Which, you know, there's a couple of people who have on this board, as you guys can see. So we have our cubes, and the cubes are magic. They're made from memories, or combined cubes. And then we have our elixir of life and death. You drink that, and it's a 50-50 chance whether you or the buddy who you're taking your elixir with dies. One of you gets to die, one of you ascends to godhood. So the other main things is the main thing within the game is that there is effectively 2 main families that are involved in this. The Islanders, who... what's a color? You know what? They have a lot of, like, red in all of their character stuff. So I'm gonna assign them red. Anything with them is gonna be red. And we're just gonna, like, have a little... all of these ones are Islanders. It will be relevant. Hope you guys are taking notes. Including Mr. Owl was not a mistake. That will be explained later. And then the other family, who I think we're gonna go with... let's see. Let's go with yellow. That feels right. The other family that is mainly involved is the Vanderbooms, which is all of these. So that's all of them. And a few others that I forgot to pull PNGs for. That's fine. But then also... well, actually, technically... then we also have a couple of other random characters who show up, including... Dale, who... you know what? He's gonna be green. No, Harvey will get to be green. We have Harvey, who is a figure who comes up a lot for reasons I can't even explain. And then we have Dale. That's this guy. Detective Dale Vandermeer, who shows up sometimes and is around and stuff. And all of this, you know, I'm sure you're like, okay, but why is the white woman in the middle? Why do we have white woman jump scare? We'll get to Laura in a bit. But yeah, so that is the main players in this. Ignore all of these. We've got the Islanders, and we've got the Vanderbooms, Harvey, and Dale. So, yeah. So now, to set the stage, we're actually going to start in the timeline with the Islanders, because their stuff comes first. And if you guys remember from Rusty Lake Paradise, that is technically the game that chronologically takes place first. I don't remember what the date was because I forgot to write it down. Cool? Cool. So, we basically have, like, our family tree of Margaret, who is her, who had 2 sons, Nicholas and Gerard. Then just establishing our family trees. And then we have Nicholas, who married Caroline and had 3 kiddos. Jacob, Elizabeth, and David. So before the events of Rusty Lake Paradise, Caroline, who is this girl boss here, figured out how to make the elixir of life and death. She was the first one to do it, and she, you know, like, figured it out. They all live on an island called Paradise in the middle of Rusty Lake. So Caroline had her secret lab. She figured out how to make the elixir of life and death. Unrelated, and related, Nicholas was like, hey, you know what would be a cool thing? What if we sacrificed our firstborn son, Jacob, to the lake? I bet we'll get something really cool out of it. I bet that we can use him and sacrificing our firstborn son to the lake in order to ascend to godhood. That sounds really cool, yeah? Caroline, reasonably, was not having that. She managed to get Nicholas to not sacrifice their son and had him sent away for his own safety and ended up being basically burnt at the stake for it by her own family. Because, again, they're the only ones who are the residents of the island. So, 15 years later, Jacob is grown up, and he gets a letter from his dad, basically saying that they need him to return to the lake. They need him to return to Paradise because things are going bad. They need him. And also, by the way, your mom is dead. She's been dead for a while at this point. They just decided not to tell him because they were being silly goofy and also assholes. And they also need him because they wanted to try and sacrifice him in order to stop the biblical plagues that are plaguing Paradise. And in the end, they end up succeeding and sacrificing him, burning him within the effigy of an owl, which completes the original, like, sacrifice dealio that Caroline started and died to. Because again, the elixir of life and death, one person has to die, the other person gets to ascend to enlightenment. So Caroline dies. And that counts so that when Jacob, once he comes back, gets to ascend to enlightenment with after being burned to death, and he becomes Mr. Owl. So yeah, that's right, everybody. Mr. Owl is Jacob Islander. That's a thing. He becomes the immortal Mr. Owl, the egghead himself. I could have gotten pictures of his human form, but he has come up in multiple places since. And Mr. Owl, upon ascending and becoming Mr. Owl, proclaims himself to be the guardian of the lake, and he decides that he's going to build a hotel on Paradise, which ends up happening and is the hotel that we see in the middle of the lake for all of the other games. That's the thing. Now that I've gone through, like, basically the islanders who essentially were the residents who lived on Paradise, which is an island in the middle of Rusty Lake, Jacob, the last, like, I can't say he's the last, because, like, obviously, like, he has 2 younger siblings. But Jacob Islander ascends to become Mr. Owl, who ends up being a figure in a lot of the other games. Then, moving up in the timeline, again, I didn't pull numbers, because that would have made too much sense. So then, we get into the Vanderbooms, who they kind of also have their own game that primarily just deals with their stuff, which is Rusty Lake Roots, which is where a lot of this comes from. And we played through it along with all of the other games on the channel, so this is probably, like, this is mostly just me finally putting the fucking pieces together. Okay, so we have the Vanderbooms, which lived on the shore of the lake, but not like on the lake itself. Like, you know those pictures of like the painting of Rusty Lake where it's got like the house and then the like you'll see the hotel in the distance. They've got the house that's like on the shore. So this is the most fun family tree because they did get the family tree game. So the oldest members of the family are Alduis, who I didn't pull a picture of. Then we have William, and then a third brother who we don't actually know who that is. They started out being the three brothers lived at the house. And the three of them found out about the elixir of life, and they started working to make it themselves. And Alduis and William both succeeded in making it. William dies, and Alduis becomes Mr. Crow, our boy. I have no bias, but he's a homie. That's all. He's just a crow. Therefore, he bro. So yeah, you know, he goes off to do, like, things. William is dead, so the house ends up being inherited by William's nephew, who we're just going to assume came from the third brother, James, who is him. I probably could have done that differently, because I am kind of doing family tree things, so that, yeah, that's good enough. We're calling that good, okay? We're calling that good. So, William's nephew, James, inherits the family estate, and he ends up discovering the secret lab that they have, that Alduis and William had, and tries to make the elixir for himself. Well, he meets his wife, Mary, and they get to have... He and Mary end up having... Man, I'm doing this shit all out of order. So, James inherits the estate, he meets Mary, they have 3 kids. Who are Samuel, Emma, who I didn't pull a picture of, and Albert. Who's this weirdo? They're also triplets, which is kind of weird. Then James ends up finding the lab, with all the notes about the elixir of life. He makes it, and is like, okay, cool. He gives it to his dog. Just to, you know, test and see if it's safe. Animal testing. It's very, very, very cool, fun, fresh, fruity. Just to, you know, see if it's safe. And the dog doesn't die. And so, I guess, not reading the fine print, James is like, cool, this is poggers. Excellent, I'm gonna live forever. And he takes it, and he fucking dies. Because that's how it works. So, big stupid idiot over here, decided to take it. The dog is immortal. That's a thing. That's a whole plot point, is the fact that the dog is immortal. And yeah. So, around this point in the timeline is where, hypothetically, Arls would take place. You know, the one earlier with one of the early games was Arls, which was centered around Vincent van Gogh, which, even though that is doing a lot of stuff that involves the, like, black and white cubes, it largely doesn't have a whole lot to do with the bigger story at play, because the best guess that, you know, I have and other creators who I've watched have is basically that the game was made before they had an idea of there being, like, a big extended whatever the hell's going on, you know, in mind. So that's a thing. So that side note, Vincent van Gogh is apparently involved, but he's not, like, directly involved He just, like, got cubes or something that may have inspired Starry Night. So, yeah, that's a thing in the universe. Anyways, back to the story. So, there was a scene. All of the stuff with the Vanderbooms mostly gets explained over the course of Rusty Lake Roots, which, yeah. So, in the game, there was a scene where Emma was like, there was a flower scene, and then she spontaneously became like very, very pregnant. We don't know what that's all about, but it did result in her having a son who was Frank. He's important later. Frank, exists. Unfortunately, his uncle Albert is kind of a fucking asshole. I mean, when the guy comes out looking like this, you want to have sympathy, but at the same time, he's kind of a creep. Anyways, he, at one point, tricks Frank into falling into the well in front of the family house and trapping him down there, where Frank would then spend, like, the next, like, 20 plus years. How did he survive down there? Fuck if I know. He just lived at the bottom of a well for 20 years. Meanwhile, nobody else in the family knows that this happened. So, Emma, poor Emma, is like, oh no, my poor little 5-year-old baby, because Frank was 5 at the time. She's like, oh no, he must have, like, run away or something. Emma, goes for a very long time, hoping that her baby is gonna come home. Except that he never does, because he's trapped in the bottom of a well. And in her grief, years later, she ends up killing herself by hanging herself from the family tree, basically. So, that happens. And in this time period is when, theoretically, the game Hotel happens. Rusty Lake Hotel. Wherein, we have Mr. Owl running the hotel on Paradise, and there is the group of guests who get invited out there. I didn't pull pictures because I'm very, very smart. I'm a professional, actually. And we have the whole sequence wherein there's the 5 special guests who, one by one, Mr. Crow and Harvey, who is humanoid at this point in time, like, Harvey is a fucking mystery. Is he a parrot? Is he, like, an immortal being, like Mr. Owl or Mr. Crow? Good fucking question. I don't know. But he has a humanoid form, and he was using his free will and opposable thumbs to assist Mr. Crow and Mr. Owl kill the guests at the hotel and stealing their corrupted souls, which they later escape and turn Harvey back into a parrot. It's all a little weird. And we just kind of have to accept that it's weird and just roll with it. So yeah, that happens. Meanwhile, Albert is continuing to be a creep. He starts, like, learning the dark arts and voodoo and shit. Meanwhile, his brother Samuel ends up meeting this fortune teller lady, Ida Reisinger. Reisinger, I think is what that is. I pronounce it wrong every single time, so we're just gonna accept that and move on. Samuel and Ida end up meeting, falling in love, and they have a kid, Leonard. Albert, unfortunately maidenless, incredibly jealous of Samuel because he's very into Ida. He starts practicing the dark arts, being spooky, being creepy, and one night he just, like, fucking snaps, and Albert ends up killing his own mom and Samuel and Ida. So they're toast. And he fucking killed them. And to make it even creepier, To make it even creepier, Albert stole, shall we say, parts from Ida, and then alchemically made himself a child, using both of their DNA. And that's Rose. Rose, goth queen that she is. Goth queen from a very young age. That's a thing. Ends up using a Ouija board when she's a kid to contact the spirit of William, who's like, hey, you know, it'd be cool. You could bring me back to life. That'd be really poggers of you. She also ends up finding Frank and helping him escape from the well. Also, Leonard fought in World War I and, like, lost a leg over that. That's a thing. That's a thing. And when he returned from the war, you know, with, you know, minus one leg, the three of them end up teaming up to, you know, bring back William. So the three of them decide that they're going to team up to try and bring back William. In order to do that, they need two main things. Two things with a couple of subcategories of multiple things in those categories. The main thing being timepieces, which over the course of the game, we end up finding a bronze, a silver, and a gold timepiece from various different places. And the other thing that they end up needing is sacrifices, which had been taken from all of the family members over time. They ultimately end up getting everything that they need, and they complete the ritual, which ends up with the three of them possibly getting entangled with the roots of their family tree. But then Rose shows up later, so I don't really know what's going on there, if that's like everybody else died, or if she's just special. I mean, we love our goth queen Rose, but either way, William gets sent to the Samsara room, where he goes through a bunch of, like, iterations of, like, different lives, you know, worm, other animals, before eventually being reincarnated as a little girl, as Laura, who Rose then raises as a daughter. Yeah, that's the thing. So yeah, this old man is her. That's her. But it's the old man. It's the same guy. It's the same soul. Around this time, we're gonna jump away from the Vanderbooms for just a sec. Del Vandermeer has his 7th birthday party. And this guy comes and tries to get the gun that he apparently owned in a past life, and kills his entire family for it, just for lulz. Also, from what I was, like, looking at, Grandpa may or may not have been there. I wanted to put a picture of him because that picture of him with the fucking gun is iconic. But he only shows up when we've messed with Dale's memories, when we get the blue cube. So, who knows? We haven't really seen the long-term repercussions of that. But that either did or didn't happen. Probably didn't, though. But, yeah. So, then we jump back over here, because that happened. Then, you know, we played through Underground Blossom the most recently, which kind of focused more on Laura's upbringing, you know, the metaphor of that. And when she was a kid, Rose, who had been Laura's mom, you know, ended up asking Harvey to watch over Laura, because she knew that the corrupted soul of her father was gonna fucking get her. And that ended up happening, and Laura otherwise got to have, like, a fairly normal childhood. She struggled with, like, mental illness, as we kind of figured out, and was plagued with visions of Like, she could see the spooky shit. But, you know, like, other than that, she got to be pretty normal. It was great. And Harvey was in parrot form alongside her. And, you know, doing the good guardian thing, I guess. I don't know how a parrot could be a legal guardian, but you know what? We're just gonna completely, like, write that off, okay? We're just gonna not think about that too much. So, man, I'm gonna need more colors. We're gonna do purple. We're gonna do purple. So, at some point, Laura ended up meeting Bob. And they ended up falling in love. They had a relationship for a little while. It was very cute. Then Laura was kind of struggling with her mental health, and she ended up winning a trip to the Rusty Lake Mental Health and Fishing Facility through a newspaper contest. At which point, she decided to break up with Bob and pack up all her stuff and move to the lake, which is wild. That's kind of the timeline for when Cube Escape Lake and Harvey's Box are basically like taking place at the same time, just from like different perspectives, effectively. So Laura ends up staying in a cabin in the lake where she gets like attacked by a shadow man who ends up getting turned into a black cube. And then after that, she ended up living in a house near the lake. I don't think it's the same one as the Vanderboom's family house, but she ends up living near the lake, and yeah, that happens. And that is where she ends up dying. Meanwhile, you know, let me, like, how do I want to explain this? Again, I have like 6 pages of notes. We're kind of flying through these. It's kind of wild. So yeah, Laura starts living by the lake, and all is good until she just like cuts her own throat and died. At which point, Dale is assigned to investigate what happened, and he immediately is like, there's something more going on here. I'm gonna get to the bottom of this. And he gets completely like consumed with the case. And like, you know, he's like digging way further into this than, you know, he probably could have. He ends up even going so far as to question Bob, thinking him like a suspect, you know. And that's a whole thing. Which is the conversation that they end up having at the theater bar. We'll get back to Bob in a minute. But yeah. So Dale ends up questioning Bob, who's not doing good because like the breakup kind of like destroyed him mentally and emotionally. He was so depressed already that he got fired from his job at the birdseed factory and was like drinking to forget constantly, which that's not good. Dale ends up going to the bar that he frequented in order to question him. Bob was like, I ain't telling you shit, I didn't do it. Ended up getting taken into police custody, where Bob got his soul consumed, and he ended up like killing people, like killing an officer before he escaped. And at some point during this timeline, nobody knows when, he ended up trying to take his own life. So, yeah. That's a thing. Meanwhile, Dale is still, like, investigating. He's gone to the lake to, you know, try and figure out what the hell's going on. He ends up getting a black cube from the corrupted soul of Bob and a white cube from a vision of Laura who comes through a television set. And they combine into, like, a beacon of light that summons Mr. Crow to take him to the mill, where he ends up avoiding a antlered corrupted soul, which I'm gonna just go ahead and say it's probably Albert. He's creepy. He gets frequently pictured with the deer skull mask. The deer skull mask is the thing that Albert would wear when he would do like his dark arts stuff. So I personally suspect that anytime that's a thing, it's probably him, or he's involved. But anyways, so Dale goes back to the lake and gets taken to the mill, where he eventually finds an elevator that takes him down into like the forest below the lake. At this same time, Laura's body ends up getting taken to the lake to have her memory extracted, but her soul gets corrupted and bad things happen. Question mark? Also at the same time, after, he tried to Alt F4 from his own life, Bob decides to send himself off on a grippy sock vacation to the White Door facility that he received a business card from this lady, Sarah. And he ends up going on a grippy sock vacation to this kind of sus mental health facility, which is actually run by Mr. Owl for reasons. Yeah, that's a thing. They are like treating him at the facility like a top priority because he has memories of Laura, which are apparently extremely valuable. Probably because Laura is the reincarnated soul of William. And we know this now. It makes sense. It makes sense. But yeah, as we saw in White Door, Bob went on a grippy sock vacation. He ended up kind of like realizing what the hell was happening. Tried to escape, got sent to solitary, completely got consumed by... His soul got completely consumed and corrupted. And it ended up that Sarah ended up being able to remove all of his memories of Laura, which allowed him to recover. And, like, actually, like, move on with his life. And be a functional human being instead of a shadow man. Which is great. We love that for him. Let's see. Oh, and then, yeah. So, Dale, once he got sent to the forest below the lake, ended up in the Paradox Room, where he got to hear from a lot of the people. Mr. Owl ended up basically telling him, one of the things that really stuck out to me was that Mr. Owl ended up telling Dale that he needs a successor to be like the guardian of the lake. And it kind of feels like they're gonna end up, possibly having Dale be the next Mr. Owl, question mark? Who knows? But he was also like getting the visions of Laura, and she may also possibly be back, but they also are only going to allow either Dale or Laura to come back. Who knows where it's going? And yeah, because Laura managed to find a blue cube somehow from beyond the grave and undo her own death with the help of her mother's tree in the forest below the lake. And yeah, so who knows? That's where we're at. That's where we're at. Where are we going with this? I don't know. We have no idea. We have no idea. That's the fun part. Well, we kind of do. Because at the very end of it all, I forget, I think it's Paradox Room. It's like, basically what we're getting set up with, the current spot in the timeline, is basically that Dale is somewhere below the lake and is going to try and ascend. Laura is also trying to come back, but only one of them is going to be able to actually make it out alive. So, Dale versus Laura? That doesn't feel like a fair fight, but I don't know, maybe, like, Laura's secretly, like, got the experience of past lives that she can, like, tap into or something. Who knows? Who knows? It's interesting. But, yeah. Yeah, so this is our conspiracy board. Any questions? Any questions from the class? Because, otherwise, yeah, that's kind of it. I mean, I did skim over some. And again, if you guys want more detail on, like, what is actually going on with the series, I cannot recommend enough the channels who actually take the time to put these things together. The Rusty Truth does, like, a game-by-game breakdown of the plots, of, like, the actual story that's going on, which is really cool. And then Zefiewings did more of like a proper like video essay style, putting the pieces together, and that really was what helped me like put together the complete timeline. I'm not even gonna lie, a lot of this, the structure, I just took notes. So if you want to hear it all said more coherently, she's got videos, and they're great. But yeah. And I'm kind of looking forward to seeing where the story goes from here, especially like now kind of understanding everything. I'm gonna set my notes aside. Now kind of like understanding what everything is. It's less like, oh yeah, there's these random people who are just like having bad shit happen to them. And it's more like, oh.
Hi, Editing Scribe here again. I just trailed off after this because of an ad break when I was originally streaming this on Twitch, so I'm gonna try and finish my thought to the best of my ability now, and go ahead and say that I think what I was trying to say, which is, I'm really interested to see where the story goes next, especially now knowing a lot more about what's actually going on with the story, because I feel like you can enjoy the Rusty Lake games without completely understanding what's going on, just based on the like level of weirdness that the games are and the fact that they're just really solid puzzle games. But actually understanding the story that, you know, connects all of them means that I can be invested in a way that I wasn't before, which again makes me really excited to see where things go next. But other than that, again, please check out the two channels that I mentioned earlier, The Rusty Truth and Zefiewings. Both of them were fantastic resources when I was putting all this together originally. And yeah, I think that's about it that I've got. On that high note, I hope that you guys have a good night, and remember to stay curious. Bye, everybody!